Okay, hi guys, welcome to this SBR orientation session for the June 2022 examination. This is Lukman Rafiq here. My teaching background is that I have been in teaching profession for more than 13 years now, and I have been teaching various qualifications including the ACCA, ICAW, the ICAP, and the CIMA qualification. The various subjects that I have been teaching include the financial reporting, financial management, auditing, and the performance management. So, the agenda for the session today is we shall inshallah be going through the syllabus of the SBR. We shall be discussing the teaching methodology that I'll be adopting. Plus, I will be giving you an bit more details about how exactly are the courses being offered through Escribir College. So that is something that we would be doing in today's session. You have got the chat window in front of you. You can write down any queries that you may have in the chat window, or alternatively, what you could do is that you could actually unmute yourself also, and you could unmute yourself, and you could also claim. You could talk to me also. You could do both of those things. So that's what it is all about. Now let's actually start off. Let's actually start discussing. The first thing that we need to do is that we need to understand one thing, which is that the SBR, the paper SBR. Wait a bit, please. Okay. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is the paper SBR, the strategic business reporting. Now, what exactly is this strategic business reporting all about? Try to understand. It's not financial reporting. It's not corporate reporting. It's a strategic business reporting. That means the word strategic means you are talking at the top levels, you are talking at the board level, and when it comes to business reporting, that means you are reporting for the business. So these words actually suggest, these words actually tell us that when we are going to be talking about this strategic business reporting, it is not just going to be the financial reporting. It is not just going to be the financial reporting. It would actually be more of a business reporting. And when we talk about the concept of reporting for the business, so that means you would be reporting some of the financial aspects, you would be reporting some of the non-financial aspects, but overall you would be reporting in a manner that it would make sense to the business owner. You'd be reporting in a manner that it is going to make sense to the business owner. That is what it is going to be. So, as I will move forward and I'll discuss about the syllabus structure. So I would actually tell you that what are the components of this SBR syllabus and how it does it includes things in addition to the reporting, in addition to the financial reporting. Before we go on discussing that, first of all, let's have a bit of a discussion on the relational diagram of the SBR, which is very much what you expect it to be, that with respect to the SBR, we need to have a good prior knowledge of the FR. Once we have the good knowledge of the FR, then we'll be able to do SBR. So that is something that we do expect to happen. Now, let me guide you something that a lot of students, when they come to the SBR level, they have already forgotten whatever that they studied at the FR level. So they usually have a concern that how exactly are we going to tackle that? So don't worry about it. When you would come to us, the lectures that you would be getting, you will have the FR content also. But that FR content would obviously have been delivered for the SBR student. So it's more of a revision content rather than teaching from the very basics. It's rather than going to be it's more of a going to be a revision type of lecture rather than going from the very basics. That's how the lectures are going to be. So you don't have to worry about it. You will be able to revise the FR portion also when you will be using the lectures which have been prepared by myself. Now, There's this another connection, which is obviously a forward connection, not a backward connection. So yes, a significant amount of SBR knowledge is used at the AAA level, and as a student, you should actually know SBR knowledge for the AAA. But we're not talking about this SBR knowledge right now for AAA. We're just talking about that the connection between FR and the SBR. It's a strong connection, and you got to keep this thing in mind. And I'm telling you that the way I've prepared the lectures, those lectures include the FR area also, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, let's move a bit forward and let's talk about this approach to examination of the syllabus. When we talk about the approach to examination of the syllabus, so there is actually going to be two sections, section A and section B. With respect to section A, there are actually two questions for the section A. One of the question is of approximately 28 to 30 marks, and the other question is going to be of 20 to 22 marks. And with respect to section B, there are actually going to be two questions of 25 marks each. So in short, you will have four questions at the SBR level that you would have to answer. And from the past pattern, what you could actually see is that there is a specific defined pattern of what are going to be the topics examined in question number 1. And again, there is a set trend of the questions that are going to be tested, the areas that are going to be tested in the other question 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to be discussing about that also. Now, let's move a bit forward and let's discuss further. So I'm going to be talking about the syllabus areas. And let's just see that what are the major syllabus areas which the examiner expects us to know at the SBR level. You've got this diagram in front of you, and on the basis of this diagram you could see that there is this one section which is about fundamental, ethical and professional principles. There's this another which is about financial reporting framework. The third one of them is reporting the financial performance of a range of entities. Then financial statements of group entities. The interpreting financial statements for different stakeholders. This is where the business reporting actually comes into play. And lastly, the impact of changes in accounting regulation, the sixth area, which is also termed as the current issues. Now, let's have a bit of a discussion about these various syllabus areas and what are the topics that are examined in them. So let's have a bit of a discussion. The first thing that I'm going to be talking about is the current issues. The first thing that I'm going to be talking about is the current issue. From the perspective of the exam, you can expect a 7 to 12 mark area for the current issues. Now, what are these current issues that is going to be examined as part and parcel of SBR? Try to understand. There are multiple developments with respect to the IFRS, with respect to the other laws and regulations that are examinable at this SBR level. So at times what happens is that there are few proposed changes in those areas, like maybe there is an accounting standard which is proposed to be changed. Like presently there is a proposed change on IAS 21. So there could be a proposed change. Or there could actually be a recently introduced change. Or there could actually be a discussion paper published by IASB. What exactly do you mean by discussion paper? When we talk about the concept of discussion paper, the discussion paper would actually mean that when the IASB wants to discuss some specific issue with respect to the accounting standard, they publish a discussion paper. That these are the points that have been raised with respect to XYZ accounting standard, and we need to talk on this, that how exactly should it be dealt with. So that is what the discussion paper is. So let me guide you that when there is a proposed change to the accounting standard, or when there is already recently introduced change to the accounting standard, or when there is a discussion paper that has been published, or when there is an exposure draft which has been published. What is an exposure draft? Exposure draft is the final draft of the accounting standard before it becomes formally published accounting standard, before it is adopted by IASB. There is a final draft that's published, that's called exposure draft. So what actually happens with respect to this current issues is that, as I said, the proposed changes, the recently introduced change, the discussion paper, the exposure draft. IASB gets into this proposed changes, it introduces few changes, it publishes exposure draft, it publishes discussion paper. What the examiner expects us to know is that the examiner expects us to know that what are the changes. The examiner expects us to know the reasons for changes. The examiner expects us to know the impact of changes in existing accounting. Now, let me just guide you onto this. So when it comes to the current issue, as I said, that it could be a 7 to 12 mark area in the examination. So what is the examiner going to be examining? He's going to be requiring you to discuss that, explain the changes that have taken place. He will be expecting you to discuss that why was the change needed. He's expecting you to tell him that what is going to be the impact on accounting if the previous accounting standard was followed and if the new accounting standard is going to be followed. So current issue is an important area, but again, it's not that important area that you leave aside all other areas and focus only on current issues. A lot of students, they run after current issues although they have not completed the whole syllabus. So the important thing is that you complete the whole syllabus first. That's the first thing to do. Then you focus on the current issues. That's the first thing that you got to keep in mind. But anyways, how am I going to be discussing current issues, and how do we get to know that what are the current issues examinable? So you know that the ACCA's official publishers include BPP and Kaplan. What BPP and Kaplan they do is that, obviously what BPP does is, at the end of every chapter, whatever the proposed changes, whatever the proposed regulations are, BPP publishes them. And what does Kaplan do? Kaplan generally uh, publishes a separate chapter, and in that separate chapter it discusses all the proposed changes or all of the current issues in that one single chapter. So whichever publisher you use, whether you use BPP or whether you use Kaplan, you will get a section of the current issues. Plus the examiner articles or the articles available on the ACCA website, they also give you a guidance with respect to current issues. So when we are going to be talking about the current issues, so we would be going through this relevant current issues published in the official pronouncements of or the approved content providers of the ACCA, or the articles. That is something that we will be focusing upon. That's one area. So amongst the different areas of the syllabus I've discussed, the first thing that I've discussed is the current issues. That what exactly are the current issues, and I've explained to you that how do you expect me to go through the current issues with you people. Secondly, there's this fundamental ethical and professional principles, and then there is this financial reporting framework. Now let me just guide you about these two things. You all know these things, that it's not just ACCA, but every single accountancy body nowadays, is focusing a lot on and ethics. And when we talk about the ethics, what do ethics tell us? The ethics tell us the difference between the right and wrong. What do ethics tell us? The ethics tell us the difference between right and wrong. So when we are going to be discussing the ethics, so what are we going to be doing in the SBR? We are going to be recalling the code of ethics, and then we would be applying, we would be dealing with these scenarios where there are going to be the accounting treatments which have an ethical dilemma involved. We'll have an accounting issues where the ethical dilemma would be involved, the ethical problem would be involved. So what we would be required to do is that we would be required to actually focus upon those ethical dilemmas, those ethical issues, those ethical problems. That is something that we would be required to deal with. So from the exam perspective, you could expect the examiner to examine this area for 6 to 7 marks. Lastly, there is another area which is about the conceptual framework. I think every one of you have an idea that there is an IASB conceptual framework. What is this conceptual framework? The conceptual framework is supposed to be a constitution. The conceptual framework is supposed to be an overall guidance document onto how accounting standards would be developed. I repeat, when we talk about the conceptual frameworks are supposed to be a guidance document which would define how an accounting standard should be developed. But unfortunately, the accounting standards were developed earlier and the conceptual framework came in later. So right now, the IASB's pronouncements, the way they stand is that the first thing to follow is the accounting standard. And in case if there is a conflict between accounting standard and the framework, accounting standards to be followed. Plus, in case if there is no guidance available in accounting standard, then you got to use the conceptual frameworks guidance for doing the accounting for a certain matter. So basically the concept of conceptual framework is it gives you a overall guidance. It's a principle based framework which would give you a general guidance on how an accounting issue or an accounting problem should be dealt with. That's what the conceptual framework does. So overall, if I tell you this section, conceptual framework plus ethics plus current issues, this is in total 25 marks for the exam. So if I go back again, I'm telling you this area, this 1 plus 2 plus 6. These three sections are going to be 25 marks in total. These three sections are going to constitute 25 marks in total. So from the perspective of the examination, you should know that how the conceptual framework applies. You should know how to deal with the ethical dilemmas. You should know that what are the current issues, etc., etc. So there are multiple things that you should know. I repeat, there are multiple things that you should know with respect to all of this. So what we will be doing is that we'll be going through all of them. We'll be discussing the scenarios. We'll be applying these concepts to the scenarios. And there is going to be a discussion pertaining to all of this. Next is reporting the financial performance of a range of entities. Now, what exactly do you mean by reporting the financial performance for a range of entities? Let me just give you a bit of a guidance. So I would say one of the areas is the accounting standard. As you know that this is the final paper for the accounting standard. So the ACCA examiner, he is expected to test you almost every single accounting standard that has not been tested at the FR level. So generally, some of the very crucial, some of the very key accounting standard that are examinable at this level include what? Include IFRS 2, which is about share based payments. Then it includes IFRS 11, the joint arrangements. There's this IFRS 13, the fair value measurement. There's this IFRS 15, which is about the revenue recognition. Then you have got IFRS 16, which is about the leases. I'm listing down the core areas, the important accounting standards. The accounting standards which are examined in detail at this level. So these are few IFRS. Plus you have got IAS 12, which is income taxes. Plus you have got IAS 19, employee benefits. Plus IAS 32 and IFRS 9, the financial instruments. And another area which is examined a lot is IAS 38, which is about intangible assets. So although you have studied a lot of accounting standard at the FR level, including IAS 16 property plant equipment, including IAS 40 investment property, IAS 20 government grant, IAS 23 borrowing costs, IAS 41 agriculture, etc., etc. Although you have studied all those accounting standard at the FR level, all of those accounting standard are examinable here also. But the most important accounting standard that are examined in detail over here include all of them. Include all of them. So you are expected to know all of these accounting standards. Plus, there's this group accounts. And at the FR level, we only discuss about a single subsidiary, an associate, and we do discuss about bit about the group disposal. But here, you have got everything. You have got two subsidiaries. You have got step acquisition. You have got group disposal. Then what do you have got? You have got what? You have got the foreign subsidiaries. You have got the group cash flows. So all of them are there. So the complete group accounts, whether that be the step group acquisition, whether that be the group disposal, whether that be the group cash flows, whether that be the foreign subsidiary, every single area of the group accounts is there. And believe me, SBR is the lengthiest of all the papers. SBR is the lengthiest of all the papers that you would come across in the whole ACCA qualification. But if you really get a good grip over these accounting standards, you would be above all the other peers of yours at workplace, because the key distinguishing factor for a chartered accountant is the reporting standards knowledge. Now, lastly, there is this basically interpretation of financial statement for different stakeholders. So you do have an idea what do you mean by interpretation? It means you calculate the ratios, you comment on those ratios. When we talk about interpretation, that means you calculate ratios, you comment on those ratios. You comment on those, that what exactly are those ratios? What type of ratios are there? So you comment on them. So you calculate ratios, you comment on them. That's what the interpretation is all about. So here, it's not just going to be the financial ratios, it's going to be non-financial ratios also that are going to be used. The non-financial aspect of performance that is also going to be used. So basically, when it comes to SBR, you are not just reporting from the perspective of shareholders, you are reporting from the perspective of many different stakeholders. You are analyzing the performance for different stakeholders, whether that be creditors, whether that be lenders, whether that be the potential investors, whether that be the employees, etc., etc., multiple people, whether that be even the governmental organization, the regulators also. So SBR has got three, four aspects. It has got accounting standards. It has got complete group accounts. It has got interpretation for stakeholders. And it has got ethical and conceptual reporting. That's what it has got. Now, how exactly do we teach SBR? So basically, if you want to see that how we teach SBR, so you can actually go onto this website of Escribir College. You can search on Google Escribir Academy. When you would search Escribir Academy, you will come across on this website. Now, all that you could do is that you could just click on this search bar. You could type in SBR and you could say search. So when you type in SBR, all the tutors who are teaching SBR at Escribir, you would come across all the lectures. Now there is this Urdu language, there is this English language that is mentioned in here. So whosoever is teaching SBR, you will be able to see that. Now what I'm going to discuss is, I'm going to discuss my own course, which is myself, Luqman Rafiq. And my own course, what you could do is that you could see that with respect to my own course, there is this every single accounting standard is being discussed, plus there are these practice questions that are there. Then you've got leases, a standard practice question, a standard practice question. Then you've got employee benefits, a standard, then practice question, earning per share, revenue, etc., etc., etc. So what have I done? I've actually gone through almost every single accounting standard, every single area, and I've actually made things available for you people in here. I've actually made things available for you people in here. Now, how exactly are we going to be delivering this course? So let me guide you. Once you enroll with us, you get access to pre-recorded lectures. That's the first thing that happens. The second thing that happens is I will be conducting a class in the coming week where I'll be discussing a timetable, or you could say I will be giving you a planner as to what topic should be done and till what date. I plan to conduct weekly live sessions, or in case if the students are not prepared, it could turn into a fortnightly live session where the query classes are going to be discussed, the queries are going to be discussed. Plus, you will be part and parcel of the WhatsApp group where you will have communications with myself and with your other people who are there. Then there is going to be a live, then there is actually going to be a live revision in the last month before exams. The previous session that I conducted, I unfortunately caught COVID and I was down for 20-25 days. So I could not do quite frequent live sessions, but still I did conduct few of the live classes, which were there for discussion of the queries and all that. And then I did conduct few of the live revision classes also. But the um, for the weekly classes were not conducted that frequently. But again, this is what we have a plan that it's going to be conducted on a weekly basis. And in case if you have not prepared the content, then it could be converted into a fortnightly session. So this is how the course is for all of you who would like to see how we teach. So you could just go on to our website, Escribir Academy. There is this chapter introduction and demo. All the lectures which are available on the preview mode. You could just click on them and you could just play them. You could click on them and you could play them and you could actually see how exactly are we teaching. So you could see multiple topics, multiple topic lectures that have been delivered. So that could actually help you. Uh, with respect to the fee, we are charging a fee of USD 150, but right now there is a 20% off. So this turns out to be USD 120. Plus, you want to contact me. You could contact me at this number 92-331-2366161. You want to contact our admin team. You could contact them on this number. This is how what you would be able to do. Now, let me have, so this is all from my side. Now you people can actually start asking your questions and I'll be happy to answer. Okay. There is a question with respect to mocks. So it is ideally going to be two mocks. One mock is committed, two mocks are not committed, but we would try to go for two. So there is one mock which is part and parcel of the commitment, not two mocks. Okay, is there any other query that any one of you has? Yeah, any other query that any one of you has? Yeah, you can unmute Mr. Khaldoon in case if you would want to. You are allowed to unmute yourself. Walaikum assalam. How did your paper go? Did you attempt it or not? Hmm. Okay. Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. I will do three attempt past papers and make them available to you people. Don't worry about it. Okay, anyone else would like to ask anything? If there are any queries you may ask or else we're gonna conclude in here.